Aloha and welcome. Let's talk about communicating effectively with the Mercury and the element that the Mercury is in. Because we're always talking to people in many different ways, this is very helpful information. So, one of the things that I realized is even though there's 12 Mercury signs, if we just pay attention to the elements that the Mercury could be, so fire, earth, air, and water, that will help us to navigate what it is that other people are thinking about in their communication. So effective communication is really geared by how did the other person respond? The meaning of communication is the response that you get. So my intention for this video is that you understand a bit about how to communicate effectively using Mercury and just thinking through the four different elements. So if we have fire, earth, air, and water, then the next logical question would be, well, how do I know what the other person's Mercury is? And really, you can hear it in their communication. You can hear it in the types of questions they're asking. And also, you can just run through the four different elements in what it is that you're sharing, what it is that you're talking about. And so if somebody's Mercury is in a fire sign, Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, then they tend to communicate through passion, drive, truth, personal experience, personal expression, right? So when you're talking, making it about them, talking about their passions, what their truth is, right? And so relating to that. If the person's Mercury is in an earth sign, Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo, they tend to communicate through practical, tangible ways, things that can be implemented, some form of structure, rules, plans, analysis, right? So if you're communicating to them, it's kind of that dry level detail and things that the air signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, they like ideas, concepts, thoughts, and logic. And so the earth sign may be wanting to put structure on these ideas, and the fire sign may want to talk about themselves, and yet yet the earth sign is saying, well, what do I do with this? How do I make this tangible? Right. And so of course, and then you have the water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, which they feel their way through communication. So, it's really important with somebody who has a Mercury in a water sign to connect with their feelings and what is it that they want to feel, what is it that they're feeling, and how to communicate based on that. So in this video, if you just think about as you're talking to someone and just listening to what they're talking about and the context of what they're talking about and how they're talking about it, and then relating that back in whatever it is you're communicating. So for example, if in a relationship somebody has a Mercury in a water sign and they might want to spend time with their partner and they may be listening to their partner, but if their partner has a Mercury in an earth sign, then that partner may be communicating their whole plan, their whole schedule, and yet the partner with the Mercury in the water sign is feeling, well, when are we going to spend time together? And not the logistical, when are we going to spend time together, but a feeling of, oh, I guess he or she has no time for me. And that's just not true. And so somebody with an earth sign who wants to communicate when they can meet up with their partner or spend time with their partner would want to let the water sign know the time that's there and what they're going to do and how we're going to enjoy the time together and these excursions and this fun and this just, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to do this. I can't wait for this or that, or, this experience. And they're bringing feeling into it. So likewise, somebody who has a Mercury in an air sign might be thinking about ideas, concepts, thoughts. They might be thinking unique ideas too. And so their communication could come off a bit cold. And so somebody to a water sign may not feel into that. They may not know what's really going on there. And really, it's just recognizing that, like to an air sign, a lot of times the words are just words. They're just ideas, concepts, thoughts, and there's really no feeling to them. And yet the water sign Mercury's, they don't really understand that because everything that they hear, they have a feeling with it. And the earth signs are just like, well, what are we going to do with this? Like, what do I do with the information you're telling me? How do I what analysis needs to be done, or what structure needs to be put here, or what rules, or what plan, and how are we going to implement this, or what do you need from me, or stuff like that. And that's what the earth signs kind of wanting to do with it. And the fire signs can be all over the place. Sometimes they have passion, they have drive, they have truth, they have their personal expression. They can just communicate in ways that are exactly that: excited, passionate about themselves. Things that they find a way to express. And another way of looking at it is, well, each of these elements need to learn from the others. Okay, so a fire sign may want to begin to understand how to communicate effectively, how to relate to their partner, how to turn their passion into something that's tangible for their partner or exciting for their partner. An air sign may want to share those ideas, but then if they're sharing them to an earth sign, the earth sign's going to want to really do something with those ideas and kind of begin to understand, well, why are you telling me this? What do you need from me, or what do you want me to do with the information? And so recognizing these combinations of things is what's really, really important. I can just sit down with somebody one-on-one and just pay attention to how they're communicating and get a really good idea of this. In fact, this came up in sales too, because I had several different people that were asking questions about what I was selling, and they wanted to better understand. For one person, they wanted to know that it was going to solve their problem. Like, they wanted they had a particular unique situation, if I recall correctly, and they just needed to know that it directly applied to that. Okay, so something tangible. Another person, there was a level of analysis that they wanted to do. They just had questions to ask, and as long as the questions were answered, they were good, right? Some wanted the ideas. What were the concepts that were going to be shared in the program, and they wanted information. Well, that to some degree, like, they need information that comes before the certain information so they can understand it. So just giving them an overview, giving them an outline of sorts. And then some needed when I'm selling, right? Some want to have that feeling, to know that what I'm doing is heartfelt. What I'm doing is helping them on their path. And so they have to have that feeling. And really, to them, it doesn't even matter what I'm selling or what they're going to buy. They're just going to go buy it because it feels right, and what I'm offering feels right to them. So that for the water signs, that's often what it is. For the fire signs, sometimes it's just, hey, go in this direction, and they're already moving. They just need a direction to go. They're almost like, don't even give me all this other information. Just tell me that the direction that you're going is going to get me to what I want to get to. And so recognizing how people communicate, both in a relationship perspective and in a sales perspective, especially, will help a ton, right? Because you just have to listen to these. Now, of course, each of these Mercuries, do break down into each of the, there's the 12 signs, right? So each of these Mercuries can get more specific. Aries, Leo, and Sag, even though they're all fire signs, there's a slightly different flavor to how each of them communicate and what each of them need. Same thing for Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo as earth signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini as air signs, and Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces as water signs. And so the more precise you can get it, even better. And so, but what I would say is, you start with these four. You start with the idea of paying attention to how people are communicating from an element perspective, and then line up your communication with their communication for more effective communication. Because what we tend to do is we tend to communicate in the way that what our Mercuries are in. And so since I'm not sitting in front of you, we're not one-on-one, I don't know your Mercury style. And so I just have to share my passion and excitement for this topic, how it can help you with what it is that you want to achieve, right? So a lot of the fire signs, aspect of things, and then the earth, here's something tangible you can do with it. Here are ways you can directly apply this information in what you do. In the air signs, here's some content, here's concepts, here's ideas, here's, oh, maybe you've never thought about the idea of the 4 elements of Mercury. And then the water signs is just saying, well, what they want to feel into it. And so it's knowing, okay, well, what do I feel about this? How is this going to help me? How am I going to, what meaning, do you give it? And the water signs are going to be less about this particular group of information, because this information is much more fire, earth, and air. However, we will communicate with water signs throughout the day. And so if we recognize that for some people, they're literally feeling into the words, the way you say something, the content behind what you say, the meaning, they're making meaning out of it because of feeling. It's a water sign Mercury is one of the trickiest things, because water is typically related to emotion, and Mercury is often related, ruled by Gemini, right? So related to air, related to the mind. And so for a water sign, it's like the emotions want to be separate from the thinking. And yet for a water sign Mercury, it's as if they're being asked to just bring emotion into a construct that's normally just air. And so it's tricky. And what I find is it's more effective for somebody who doesn't have the Mercury and water to communicate with the Mercury and water sign, right? Because then if they recognize that the person is feeling their way through these things, they can address the feeling, not the content, right? So if you have a Mercury and water and you're listening to this, well, kudos to you, right? Because at that point, it's, you're starting to deepen your awareness of astrology. This might be why you, as somebody with a Mercury and water sign, really have those, you feel kind of that potential sensitivity or that emotional awareness to what's being said around you, the way people communicate, the words they're using, the facial expressions. You're just much more aware of those things. Okay. And so in any of the other signs, so like a fire sign, what might they need to learn? Well, it's not always about communicating themselves. It's not always about their ideas. It's not always about who they are. There's other things going on, right? That's a deeper lesson for some of the Mercury and fire signs. For the Mercury and earth signs, sometimes it's, you got to let loose a little bit and not hold on to all these details and go bigger picture to some degree. For the Mercury and air, there's ideas, there's concepts, but then the whole idea of learning or discovering those ideas and concepts, there's a way to apply them on your path and do something with them. And then for the Mercuries and water, yeah, it's okay not to be as sensitive to these ideas of what's going on around you and these words, and then just recognizing, how is the other person communicating? And are they just communicating matter-of-factly, for example? So just recognizing the idea of the way that you tend to communicate, and then the way that other people around you tend to communicate, and being able to enter into that reality a bit so that you can communicate effectively with them. Because the meaning of communication is the response you get, and the way that you're going to get the responses that you want is really to communicate in the way that the other person needs to experience the communication, which is why I prefer one-on-one work all the time as opposed to doing these videos, really, because I can calibrate to what my client needs, and I can communicate in a way that's effective for them. So again, the 4 elements of Mercury, right? Fire, earth, air, and water. You can use that definitely in business and sales and everyday conversations. It can eliminate a lot of problems in a relationship. So, and if you do want to dive further into applying Mercury and even more things into a relationship, how to best relate to your partner, check out my book at avatarattraction.com. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, aloha, ahui ho. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.